Okay, so the new display has arrived for my gear shift indicator. As I said, it's slightly bigger than the old one. So the old one was 3.5 inches. This is 4.3. It actually looks a lot bigger. I'm hoping it's not going to be obstructive in the car, but I do like the speed of it. If I just click it into the just to make it flash. So this is now, you can see it's not doing that scrolling thing. So the connection to the screen is this cable here. You can see instead of having it plugged on the top of the GPIO, we've got the additional cable. The other nice thing about this is I won't show you at the moment, but you can mount the whole of this assembly on the back of the screen. It's got posts, threaded posts, where I can screw the whole lot down onto the back of the screen, so I can form one sort of blob that I then need to mount into a case. So all in all, I'm pretty impressed. That's ideal. I've got a lot of wires hanging out of here. These two, which is a screen and a keyboard and mouse, I won't be using those in the car, obviously, so that's not a problem. These are the new connections for the pit speed switch. So if I switch, oh, that's the other thing. This is scrolling smoothly now, whereas before it was sort of slightly jittery. But let's go round to the, hopefully I can get back to there. Yep. Okay, so we're in the gear shift, and if I touch these two together, it flicks into pit speed. So that's the switch side sorted out. I've had to change the actual pins that I'm using here because the original pin clashes with a pin that's used by this CAN interface. So we've had to change those around. But yeah, I'm really impressed. The only thing I have done is I've rewritten the code a bit again, nothing major, but instead of having the whole screen flashing, at the moment I've got it set so that the digit will flash. Okay, and here's the new version of the software. So you can see it's just the number flashes now. I think that should be good enough. I have thought about making the whole of the background turn red, but I think it depends how much this distracts me and how much it actually helps me. So I'm going to try with this first. If this isn't drawing attention, giving me enough of a notification, what I'll do, in particular it's the gear shift I think is the issue. What I'll do is I'll change it so that either the indicators will flash or the whole of the background flashes red, which is something else I could do. I purchased this box to contain the whole thing, but I did print a new lid. You can see the lid here in this picture. The printing wasn't particularly successful, which is just a problem with my printer. This is the reverse side, and this is where I'm going to mount the computer. Here you see all the electronics loaded into the box, and you can see the small aluminium tabs that actually hold it in. You may have noticed in the previous picture there was some double-sided sticky tape around the edge of the sort of bezel, and that also fixes it nice and firmly. I experimented with various places in the cockpit to mount this display. I did think about putting it up here actually, but I'm not sure regs-wise how the scrutineers would feel about it sort of hanging from the roll cage. I wasn't going to just hang it down vertically, I was going to set it back here somewhere. And I was quite attracted by that, but the only thing that I realised was that when I'm wearing a crash helmet, I wear one with a peak on it so that if it's sunny, if you get a low sun, you can get some shade to your eyes. So what it meant was that if I mounted it high, I would have to tilt my head to look at it. Whereas with it mounted where I have it now, I can just move my eyes. I don't have to move my head to actually see it. So you can see that it's just the mount at the moment is a simple strip of aluminium. It's 3mm aluminium. with bolts into, bolting it onto the dashboard, and then the one mount there. Now, to stop it from bouncing up and down and what have you, if I show you around the back here, you'll see there's a foam block behind it, and I've used that with my camera foam block, and it's been very successful. And actually, although I can move it, that actually is pretty solid, and I think that'll work okay. Now, the final things I've got to do, obviously I have to wire it in, and what I want to do is produce a multi-way plug that I simply plug into the side of it, because I don't want to have to, if I want to take it out, I want to just be able to unplug it, undo one bolt and then take it out. I don't want to have to, mess around disconnecting individual wires. So I need to look at multi-way plugs that are suitable. The other thing is, I haven't weighed it, but I think it weighs around 600 grams with the bracket. So it is a consideration. There is some additional weight there. But I'm hoping to get a big enough improvement to compensate for that. I mean, what I'm looking for is, in a race, I'm looking for reduced pit time in and out, get it, optimize it so that I get it smack bang on the minimum, or as close as I can to the minimum time. And then the other thing is brake trace, not during a race, but during practice. And for that, it would be ideal to have it over here, quite honestly. But there's no way. I can't see how to do it. I don't want to. I did think about putting it here, but I do use this vent on a hot day, so I don't want to block that vent off. I'd even considered taking these gauges away, putting it here, and then mounting these gauges somewhere else. But I don't know. Let's go. I think that's perhaps going a bit too far, particularly as I'm not completely clear on the benefits of this yet. The next thing to worry about is connecting, connectors, because I want to be able to remove the unit from the car fairly easily. And so ideally what I want is a connector in the side or in the back. Now, I've chosen these style of connectors. I think they're called aircraft or aerospace or something. I need 6 connections. So I need 2 for the CAN bus and 2 for the power. And on the ground side of the power, I'll also use that as the ground for the CAN bus connector. And then I need 2 for the pit speed indicator switch. So I need 6 connections. So these look ideal. Now, if I remember rightly, and this is from years ago, I seem to remember that these sorts of connectors are what they use in real race cars when they connect through the bulkhead. I'm sure I remember these being used, but anyway, I think they'll do the job for us. So then, and these are rated at 5 amps per pin. So then I was thinking about wire. Now, due to a previous life, I have an awful lot of Ethernet cable. But when I break out the Ethernet cable, the wires, you get 7. I don't think you're going to be able to see that on the camera. Let's see. Yeah, you can just about see it. You get 7 strands of 0.2 millimeter wire, copper wire, in each of these connectors. In each of these sort of, I don't know, I guess you call that wire as well. I looked up the rating of those, and the rating seems to be somewhere between 1.4 amps and 2 amps, and I don't think that's going to be enough. So it looks as though I can't use this. I think I'm going to have to go for something heavier. But I thought one thing I should do is perhaps measure the current with it powered up via this at say 13 volts. So I'm going to stick 13 volts into this connector, and then I'm going to measure the current draw. So now if we power it up, let's see what happens. We're still, 200. So it's using a lot less, it's drawing a lot less current than I was expecting. I mean, I was led to believe that it would draw about 2 amps, but this is nowhere near 2 amps. And I mean, it will be, it's got micro SD card as effectively the hard drive. So it will be using that because obviously it's got to boot, and it's starting up. I can't see why feeding the CAN signals in it will increase the load. We're running, as you can see, we're running the display, so that's okay. So it's really weird. It seems to draw no more than half an amp from what I can see during the whole boot sequence, and now, as you can see, it's running at around a third of an amp. So yeah, very strange. So what that leads me to believe is my concern over using the Ethernet cable is probably not an issue, because the Ethernet cable should work fine. I'll tell you something that's intriguing. Why doesn't this show the colours? I can see the colours on the display, and if I move this forward and tilt it, yeah, it's not showing the colours. I mean, it's got green on it at the moment. You can't see the green. It's got yellow now. Can't see that. It's really weird. It's obviously something to do with some polarizing effect of this display versus my phone, where I'm using it as a camera. Anyway, let's not get sidetracked. So, yeah, a third of an amp. So that Ethernet cable's fine. I'm going to use it. I mean, that's rated at about 5 times what I need. So that shouldn't be a problem. I am surprised it's drawing such a small amount of current. Actually, let's try, I'll probably break something, but let's try winding the voltage down a bit. So if I try, it says it's good, it'll carry on working down to 8 volts, and I think that's, I mean, I've not got my meter on it, but I've got a rough and ready meter on the front of my power supply. Now I've turned that down to about 8 volts. You can see the current usage has gone up. That makes me think that it has got some sort of switch mode. Do you call them buck converters? I can't remember what they're... Is that what a buck converter is? Sort of switch mode thing. Before I embarrass myself with a load more twaddle about power supplies, which I know very little about, it is a buck converter that converts higher DC voltages into lower, and this just here, I used a magnifying glass to read it, is an MP1548EN buck converter. Surprise, surprise. So that's how it takes in a variable voltage on one side and then feeds out the correct voltage on the other. I'm just about ready for assembly into the car now. You can see that the box, what I've done is I've drilled holes, or yeah, I've used one of those sort of step drill pieces to put holes in the top and bottom, mainly to get some air circulation through the box so that the computer doesn't overheat. And I've obviously temporarily wired this in just for testing, but what I'll do is I've got to take this out because we have to push this through the hole in the side, and then we can connect it up and then I can bolt it into the car. Now the other thing that I've forgotten, because it's a feature I added at the very last minute, is that I have added to the software a feature where you get a tone based on your brake pressure. It's something I wanted to try. Now that is going to come out of the the earphone jack or headphone jack just there, and I haven't wired that into this connector, and I haven't got a hole in the side of the box to accommodate a jack. I think I'm going to put a separate jack on the side of the box for that purpose. So I'll still have to sort that out, but at the moment I don't have the parts to do it. You know, I don't have the little surface mounted jack plug or jack socket anyway, so I think that's going to have to come afterwards. I'm quite pleased with the way that's gone in, really. Looks good. I've obviously just coiled the cable in the glove compartment until I get the terminal strip. But yeah, I think it's going to work okay. Let's have a look at it from the other side. I'm sitting in the car now, and this is pretty much the view I'll get when I'm driving. I think I can probably see it without turning my head. Obviously, when you're wearing a crash helmet, or certainly in my full face helmet, the sides wrap around a bit, so peripheral vision is a bit limited, but I don't think it'll limit me being able to see this display. There is obviously a question about whether I'm going to get too much reflection. You can see I've got a light in the car to light it up at the moment. I don't know how much reflection I'm going to get off the screen, so that could be an issue. I can probably get some non-reflective film and put that over the screen, so that's a possible modification. Regarding the angle of the display, I could have maybe turned it a bit more. Oh no, I can't actually. It's so in this corner it's hard up against the dash, so I can't turn it further. I don't know that I want to turn it completely round anyway, because I do want to try and record what's on the screen on my camera, which will be sort of back that way, my forward-facing camera. That way I'll have a real-time brake trail in the video, which is quite nice. That's quite a nice idea. So when I replay the videos, I can watch the brake trace and see if I'm, you know, trail braking correctly, and see how smooth my trail braking is. One particular issue I'm trying to correct is when I heel and toe, I tend to push the brake pedal harder as I press down on the accelerator. And I've tried correcting it, and it seems that I then overcorrect and go the wrong way and actually lift off a bit. Anyway, I think that's good enough. So we'll see how we get on once we get out on the track. That seems to have worked out okay. So at the moment, I've stuck it to the lid of the glove compartment with double-sided tape, because I haven't got any self-tapping screws the right size, so I'll get some. But that looks pretty neat, I think you'll agree. So that's all good. So let's see if the thing works. Okay, so apply some power to the car, put the ignition on and press the start button. Let's see what happens. Okay, well, at least it powers on. The one thing I don't like about this, you can see where I've 3D printed the front bezel, it all went wrong, and you can see it had bubbles in it, and yeah, that's a bit of a mess. I wish I should have really done it again. I'm having trouble printing on my 3D printer in the winter because it's out here in the garage and it doesn't have a heated bed plate, and the prints tend to curl. Okay, so we've got this set wrong. Right, so I've changed the config parameters. What can we test here? We can't test the speed. Oh, of course, throttle position and what have you. So if I just bring this forward to the trace. I've had a lot of trouble showing colours on the camera, filming the front of the computer, but I think this is in this position it does show it, so let's have a go. Yep, and that's the brake, and yes, you can see the brake. So just to explain the calibration, the accelerator trace is calibrated up to 100%, as you can see, so that's flat out there. And the brake trace is using the same scale, but the meaning in this case is bar of pressure. So with the car not running, I can push about 60 bar. If you start the engine with the servo assist, it will go up to 120 if you push really hard. So that explains the scale being used. So in summary, because we're pretty close to the end now, I mean, obviously I've got to do a track test. Some of the things I think about this, it's pretty straightforward to load up the software. The box was a little bit fiddly, but it wasn't too bad. I made the simple aluminium bracket, that was okay. I put a foam pad behind this because it stabilizes it. The aerospace plug in the side seems to work a treat. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, regrets. I wish I'd have drilled the hole in the side for the audible brake pressure indicator. So that's something I'm going to have to do retrospectively. The other thing is, looking at this screen now, I don't know why I don't widen this and show more a longer trace, because then it would last long, you know, it wouldn't scroll off the screen so quickly. So if I press now, take my foot off, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, see, so you're getting about 6 seconds of trace still showing. If I broadened this out, I can certainly get it to 8 seconds, which might be quite useful if you, because you know what you don't want to do is you don't want to have to look at the trace when you're halfway through a corner. What you want to do is get onto the straight and then glance at the trace and see how you did. So I think I'm going to try and reprogram it slightly to give this a more screen estate, because it's a bit wasted having these big black areas to the side. Well, what an adventure. This has gone on for some time. It's the last week in January now, and I think I started this whole project sometime in November. I think I started to write the software. Might have even been earlier than that. The software now is now I've got the sort of core parts of it done. It's very extendable. I mean, I have thought about adding things like oversteer indicators and and an area that I haven't experimented with at all is that I can get my AIM data logger to regenerate messages onto the CAN bus. So where the AIM data logger's got its internal gyros, I could push that data onto the CAN bus and use that in this computer if I want to, if I've got some use for that. But I'm conscious of the fact that I could make this totally overcomplicated if I can keep adding stuff, but it's all very well. But what I really want to know is, what are the things I really need to know? Donald Rumsfeld and his "you don't know what you don't know" anecdote. Okay, I think that's enough of me waffling, and I'll catch you on the next one.